I'm not going to lie. I have warned just about everyone I've spoken to that if I sound like I'm running a marathon, it's because my child's butt is so far into my lungs that I can't inflate them fully. A miracle of life. Let's start this podcast. Welcome to Not Gonna Lie, a Wave original brought to you by Liquid Death. I know it sounds a little scary, but it's not. It's just the most badass way to stay hydrated, okay? Seriously, it's delicious. And when it's in a can like this, it tastes colder. I can't explain it. I'm just letting you know. It tastes more crisp and refreshing. That's all. I'm your host, Kylie Kelsey, Great British Bake Off fan, professional water bottle filler to 3 children, and I once wore a vintage Eagles jacket for an EAF auction. I'm so glad we raised money, but I still don't like being in front of a camera. Coming up on today's episode, I'm nearly 9 months pregnant, and therefore my TikTok algorithm is giving me all sorts of pack my hospital bag videos. I have a lot to say on that in Doom Scroll of the Week. And after that, I'll be joined by Oscar-nominated actress Kate Hudson. We're going to talk about growing up in the spotlight, her new show, Running Point, and of course, my favorite rom-com, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I have no business speaking to her either. Before we do all that, I do have an update on the NGL fan base name. In the spirit of complete honesty, as I always am around here, I changed my mind. Anyone that lives with a pregnant person knows that hormones will get the best of you, and sometimes you decide something and then promptly change your mind. So we've got a couple new pitches to consider. As much as I do love NGLers, I don't want the name of the show in the fan base name, I think. I think that's what'll fix it. So I'm going to shout out a few new suggestions. First up, one of my favorite TikTok creators, at Doodles and stuff, posted an entire TikTok predicting the name of our fans. This is the same creator who created a video before we had Bennett, and I commented on it saying it was as if she had bugged our house because she was so spot on with the guesses of our kids' potential names. Queen Emma, roll the clip.
So far, their ideas have been terrible. Kylie's Queen's Princess Squad caused a visceral reaction. Kylie Kelsey is no princess. She's a fearless leader. She's an alpha type. She's not doing sideline photo shoots and pleather jeggings. In the Philadelphia Eagles subreddit, someone asked Eagles fans, what do you call yourselves? And a popular response reads, we don't need some dumbass nickname. We are Philadelphia. Cheered on with, keep your nicknames. We don't want them. We're damn real. I personally believe that these responses could be 3 separate burner accounts of Kylie Kelsey. I have 3 ideas. The Kylie, you hear Kylie at the beginning and then it turns into sports. I think this one particularly fits because the acronym NGL for the podcast is only 1 letter away from NFL, a league that Kylie and many Kylie fans have an affinity for. If you want to tone down the sports theme, increase the fearless camaraderie, shift from Kylie to Kylie-leaders.
So two of the names that she brought up there are the Kylie and the Kylie-leaders. I don't mind either of those. But we know that I don't love when my name's in it because I feel like it's self-centered. I don't know how to say that any other way. I don't like being the center of attention. I'm aware that I'm on my own podcast right now. Moving on. In full transparency, we just had a little sidebar with Queen Emma and another queen on our team, Nicole, who does our socials. Poor Nicole. We're going to hit this list with a head-to-head situation to narrow it down to 3 options. So I'm going to need you guys to be following us on our socials at NGL with Kylie so that you can make sure that you vote. And we will do a head-to-head, 3 head-to-heads, and then put it into a poll. Okay? So I need you guys to buckle up and take some ownership here because my pregnancy brain won't let me make a definitive decision. So can I get some help, please? Back from another sidebar with Queen Emma. She's insistent that I read you the options. So now I'm going to list you the finalists that we have The list is the real ones, outliers, the flock or flockers. Love that. Sounds like fuckers. FAFOs, and some new additions to the list, the Kai League and Kai Leaders. We're going to put it on social. So again, make sure you're following at NGL with Kylie so you can make sure your vote gets in there. Moving on, let's get into what my TikTok For You page is serving up on Doom Scroll of the Week. I'm getting all sorts of videos on a subject I have very strong thoughts on. Pack my hospital bag with me, TikTok. If you aren't familiar with these TikToks or Instagram Reels, here's the gist. When you are going to have a baby, you are going to expect to be in the hospital for 48 hours minimum. So you obviously need to take some things along with you. Plus, it's sometimes nice to take some of the comforts of home just to make your stay a little more delightful. I mean, a human being is about to exit your body. You're allowed some perks. Leaning into that, some of the craziest shit I've seen women packing in their hospital bags lately. Number one is a tripod for a camera. Specifically, the video I saw about the tripod, the person even says that the nurse told her that it was a tripping hazard for the medical staff. So I'm going to tell you what, the reason I go to the hospital is because I love a medical staff and I don't want to trip them. I don't want to slow them down while they're trying to get to me. What happens if this one decides to do full slip and slide and just shoot right out and they can't run across the room to catch it? You see what I'm saying? Also, do we want to relive it? Like the tripod for the camera would be, I'm assuming, to record the birth of your child. But do we want to relive it? It's a genuine question. I'm interested. This kind of reminds me of what I like to call the home ec mirror, or the cooking demonstration mirror. That's a mirror. I don't know if your birth experience had this, but the hospital that I go to has these mirrors that you can ask for that they will actually put at right behind the doctor and angle it down so you can see the baby coming out. No, no, it's the cooking demonstration mirror because you can angle it. No. The next item, an entire makeup kit. This one I might catch some shit for. I'm not taking makeup to the hospital. I'm not. I will take chapstick and I will end up at the hospital with mascara because it will be in my fanny pack, which goes everywhere with me. Okay. I have seen quite a few videos of people saying that they need to have their hair and makeup done because it's their first impression between them and their child. Here's how I feel about it. If you would like to do your makeup, have at it. If that's what makes you happy and feel put together and feel back like yourself, do it to it, Lars. But it won't be me. And not to mention, when they come out, they can only see like 12 inches from their face or something. So like they're not catching details. They're gonna love you because you made them. In that same boat, people who are packing curling irons or hair straighteners. What? Why? Who? When? I'm going to tell you what. When I show up to the hospital, I put my hair in a French braid. Sometimes I do it before I go and sometimes I do it while I'm there. Put my hair in a French braid and you know what happens to my hair? It stays in a fucking French braid. It's back there. It's out of my face. You just made a human. I'm stressed out about how much pressure you're putting on yourself to look good. Although I will say, and I already said this about the makeup kit, I do understand it if it is a matter of that you want to feel like yourself and that's how you feel, that helps you feel good. Whatever helps you feel good in recovery, Do that. So just take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. None of these things go in my hospital bag. That's all I'm saying. The last item, and this one is going to stir up. This one's going to stir up some issues because I think this one is probably the most universal, the one that's probably the most common, a large suitcase. I don't understand why we're bringing a wheelie suitcase. I'm talking a wheelie suitcase that is checked baggage size wheelie suitcase, not a carry-on. Checked bag, like a big ass wheelie suitcase. What are you bringing? I genuinely want to know. I want to know because I want to know if I'm wrong. I've done this 3 times. I've never taken a wheelie suitcase. I have taken a duffel bag and a diaper bag with all the baby things in it. I feel like I'm almost missing something. I genuinely want to know. Can you tell me, please? At NGL with Kylie, please tag me. I want to know what you're bringing in your wheelie suitcase. The big one, not the little. Don't tag me in a carry-on. I'm not talking about a carry-on. If it can fit in the oversized bin, I'm not talking to you. Okay? I'm talking to the people who have packed up for 6 weeks, 6 more weeks of winter spent at the hospital. Okay? I want to know what's in there. I will say, my hospital bag has not changed very much since Wyatt. In my hospital bag has been pajamas, probably 2 sets that are stretchy, that are very, very stretchy. My toiletry bag with all the goodies, which is shampoo, conditioner, a bar of Dove soap. You know what I'm saying? Just the essentials. A robe to cover my butt when I'm wearing a hospital gown. And if it gets a little chilly, my going home outfit, some snacks for both myself and my husband if need be, and slippers, flip-flops. I feel like I nailed that. For all the dad listeners and soon-to-be dad listeners, Jason's bag usually consists of sleep shorts, a change of clothes, and his toiletry bag. I think that's literally it. I don't even think the man brings snacks. He does bring a fan. We all saw that in the documentary, on the podcast. The man loves a fan, and I don't even blame him. It makes his sleeping situation more pleasant. I've said it before. I don't want him to have to suffer. I want him to be comfortable. Now, did I want him to carry a whole ass fan to the hospital? Not really, but he did. And it made him more comfy and it got him better sleep. So whatever. I would not be surprised if this time around he levels up and brings an air mattress. So, and just for good measure, I will share Jason's biggest tip to soon-to-be fathers. He is convinced that men pass out because when pushing starts to happen and birth amps up and the baby is on its way out, that you stand up and you get this rush of adrenaline. And a lot of times you've gone from sitting all day waiting to then jumping up and being in an excited situation. And because of that, he thinks that you should eat a snack right before mom starts pushing because he's convinced that it's an issue with your blood sugar. I giggle a little only because it sounds ridiculous, but when you are in it, having gone through it 3 times, it seems legit. I don't remember which birth it was, but I do remember looking over right as I'm like, I need I got like the shakes and I'm like, we're going. And he's like mid bite, getting ready to like hold me for a crunch. So, but he hasn't passed out. So take the advice. Just have a little snicky snack before the slip and slide happens. And that does it for Doom Scroll of the Week. And now a message from me about Liquid Death. When I first heard about Liquid Death, I said, this brand is literally me, and I meant it. Why? Because I think their commercials are hilarious. The fact that they don't give a flying fuck if I curse is also delightful. But I will tell you what, not being a drinker and going into spaces where people are drinking and being able to crack a can that looks like, let's be real, badass, is something that is inclusive. I feel like I'm also cracking a cold, crisp beverage, even if it's non-alcoholic. I love it. And guess what? I wake up feeling way better than everyone else the next day. I'm into Liquid Death's mountain water. It's always stocked in our house. But they've also got soda-flavored sparkling water, and their iced tea is now the official iced tea of the Philadelphia Eagles. Go Birds. So now they've got Philly backing them. Say less. Liquid Death is available nationwide, literally anywhere you shop for water or iced tea. And for all Not Gonna Lie listeners, they're giving $2 off any 2 6-packs. Just go to liquiddeath.com/Kylie for details. She's the Oscar-nominated and Golden Globe winning actress from movies you love, like Almost Famous, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and Glass Onion. She's starring in the brand new comedy series Running Point on Netflix. She's also a musician, an entrepreneur, an author, and a fellow mother. Kate Hudson. Woo! Welcome to Not Gonna Lie.
Not gonna lie, this is fun.
I have to start with a not gonna lie. Okay. I've even said it right here on the show, actually very recently. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is one of my favorite movies of all time, but absolutely my favorite rom-com.
Yay!
Yes. It is. We've even considered, this is a hot take, but we've even considered Andy as a name for our fourth girl because we have all like what our first is Wyatt, our second is Elliot, our third is Bennett. And we were like, Andy would fit in there and it would be so cool.
Andy would be so cute.
It's funny. I actually met someone at a pool and we were talking about girl names and they said that they named their daughter Anderson, as in Andy Anderson, and call her Andy.
That is the cutest thing ever.
Isn't it?
I love that.
I know.
So Anderson's a great name for...
it's
love
so
that.
Badass.
But so Ronnie is really named after Ron, her grandfather. We spelt it R-A-N-I, but I call her Ronald.
Yes.
I literally, she answers to, I'm like, Ronald. And she's like, yes. It's the
it's the best. But if I'm just letting you know, if this one comes out, it's on the list. It's in consideration. But to be fair, we have not come up with anything. How do you feel about people calling you the RomCom Queen?
It's a mixed feeling because I now that I'm older, I love it. I think what happens when you sort of have a very successful rom-com, it sort of becomes what people expect of you and want from you. And as an actor, you're sort of like, yeah, but I want to do a million different things. So and as Hollywood goes, they love to put you in a box. They love it. And so I think when you're younger, it's like you don't want to be pigeonholed into this idea that that's what you do. And the second you have success in a rom-com as a woman, it's like they just want you in that all, so it's like you love it. And then at the same time, you're like, yeah, but I want to do other things. I don't want to just do this all the time.
Don't put me in that box.
Yeah, don't put baby in the corner.
Now, I just had Chelsea Handler on.
Oh.
And she told me that your mom is one of her career influences and that she grew up wanting to be her daughter. Has she told you that personally?
Oh, yeah. She's a self-proclaimed sister. She just said, I'm your sister.
I don't think there's much arguing with her, so that makes sense. It's like she told me and that's what it is now.
I love her so much. She's a wild one. And, which makes sense for our family because we all have a little wild hair up our hiney. And
there you go. So she would fit right in.
And so she fits right in. Yeah.
What was it like, looking up to your mom growing up?
I mean, I think like anyone who loves their mom, you're growing up, you don't really see anything. You don't see it like from the outside.
That actually leads me into, I would like to ask your input on, obviously it's a completely different level, but we're in the process of raising soon to be 4 little girls. And, with really dad mostly in a situation where we'll be out and about and people will stop him and ask for a picture, mostly in the Philadelphia area, but since doing some other things in Monday Night Football and things like that. it's grown a little bit. Do you have any like advice or anything that your parents did or anything that you currently do with your own kids that you find is like super important in not necessarily like insulating them, but in a sense, protecting them?
There's two ways to go. You know, if you're someone who's like really wants to keep things private, you know, I think you just make that very clear to whoever it is, whether it be press or whether it be you taking a picture with a fan. It's like when you're with your kids, it's just, I'm with my kids, and I really don't do that when I'm with my kids. I mean, that's kind of what I grew up with. When we would go out to dinner and stuff, that was just my parents' thing. Is like, this is about, you know, sometimes you need to have some boundary because you really need to show your kids that you're attentive to them and that all of the incoming attention isn't really real in a sense. And what I mean by that is that it didn't feed them. We fed them more, meaning that connection. So yes. Sometimes they would like put a boundary down with people. Then there's the other side, which is it can become exhausting, trying to protect your children all the time. Meaning like, you know, at some point there might be a moment where you just go, you know, this is what our life is. And you explain it to them in a way so that they understand that getting validated by other people isn't going to bring you joy, but that this is just a part of what happens when you do something that people recognize. Like, so I think that's kind of what I do. And then, you know, as they get older, they kind of define what their boundaries are, you know, like mine.
And did your mom ever explain it to you? Do you remember?
Well, my parents were really good. Like when we were younger, we moved to Colorado, and it was a much less kind of
chaotic
frontward facing world like LA or New York. But we also traveled a lot with them. Our parents were really good at just being like really kind, but like just always about our family unit. You know, I never felt like I was on display for my family. It was like, this is just what we do. And then none of this really means anything to us if our unit's not strong.
Right. Is there anything that you thought was completely like normal growing up? And then like once you got older, you were like, oh shit, that was not.
No, because I had the kind of parents that were very clear about how not normal and a lot of it was. They were so clear about how privileged our certain experiences were with us. I think that's like the most important thing, you know? It's like you can see it when your kids start to feel a little like, you know, that they're feeling a little different.
Bougie.
Right.
They're
yeah.
feeling a little bougie.
And our family, we're really good at just knocking that right out. It's like, no.
My husband is, I mean, we both grew up in like a very different situation than we're currently in. And we're both trying to mirror that, like what we had without like stifling.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my husband every so often will be like, no, that's dad's.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it is dad's.
I earned that.
Yes.
When you know, these are things that you earn. Yeah. I really think also just volunteer work with kids is like one of the most important things. I don't care how much money you have, but like kids recognizing that there's, you know, like helping other kids. That to me is the thing that keeps everybody grounded and grateful is like, you know, when you live in certain places in the world, you just have a very different life experience. And it's important to not shelter it too much, to be like, this is different than how a lot of people in the world live.
I'd love to circle back to your acting career. One of your earliest movie roles was one that you've already mentioned, which was Penny Lane in Almost Famous. What was it like to achieve that kind of success so early?
I mean, amazing. I mean, to be 19 years old and read a script that had a character like Penny Lane was like, you know, incredible. And that didn't come around very often at that age, you know. At the same time, I was playing a different part. So I was cast as the sister in Almost Famous, and then asked when the girl who was playing Penny Lane fell out, I asked Cameron if I could audition for Penny Lane, and then he allowed me to audition. I'd auditioned like 1,000 times. And, but when you read a character like that young, it's like, there's just not that many roles like that. So the fact that I was able to do that, was, such a gift.
You won a Golden Globe for Almost Famous in 2001, and I just saw the clip where you were interviewed by Beyonce on the red carpet.
You saw that? Oh my God. I remember it so well because I'll never forget it, because they were doing MTV and Beyonce was on the carpet and Andre 3000 was like up in a hotel suite. And I was such a big fan of Destiny's Child and Outkast. And then when I saw Beyonce, I remember looking at her and being like, oh my God, she's so beautiful. That's all I could think, was like, wow. And Chris, my ex-husband, loved her, and I was like, oh my, and we were both like, hey, and she's interviewing me. And now I look back, I'm like, it's so crazy. I've been lucky enough to have moments with her throughout our career. We're around the same age and came up together, An
iconic duo, the two of you coming up around the same time and just, I'm serious, owning your own, you guys have both just absolutely dominated.
Well, but she's Beyonce, you can't even
Kate Hudson.
But it's different. I look at her and I just, you see, I've seen the evolution in real time,
How does it feel that there are people who would have that same, deep appreciation and sort of awe in their voice when they describe you?
I don't feel it.
It does not register.
Unfathomable. No, it's like, to me, that just doesn't make any sense. It's almost like I block it out or something. I don't know.
She seems lovely.
She's really wonderful and she's kind and really caring.
So the type of person that you can get excited has had the level of success.
Oh my God. So yes. And she's
awesome.
Worked so hard. She works so hard. As you know, with Taylor, this doesn't just come. It comes with real attention to detail and care and real hard work.
Yes. The drive is
profound hard work.
Incredible.
Yeah. It's amazing to know, to see.
To be able to witness it all is very cool.
Yeah.
Have your kids seen any of your movies?
Yeah.
And what's the feedback on that?
I mean, what's so fun is that they love the show. My kids binged the show in one day, the Running Point. It's which actually makes me really happy because they're boys. They're teenage. I've got an adult boy, man, and a teenage boy, and they're into it. So, I mean, that's all I can ask for that's the validation I really needed was that they liked it.
Well, I mean, they're clearly up with the times that, I feel like we're very much, and I've spoken about it a number of times on the podcast, we're very much in a, generational shift of appreciating and understanding not only women participating in sports, but women being within the sports world.
Yeah.
And embracing it in a way where we're like, yeah, she is a boss ass bitch.
Yeah. And also women, there is a place for them in men's sports, whether it be in coaching staff or executive, in the front office and things
Yep.
I mean, as someone who grew up loving sports, it's playing it, yes, and women's sports, yes, but I love sports. I love baseball and football, basketball. But, and I know so many women who are like an encyclopedia of sports.
The same thing with the coach for in the NHL now, the first female coach in the NHL.
Oh God, yes.
And to see, honestly, the thing that gets me choked up about that coach is that you have these little girls now going to her games and putting up these signs that are like, I'm going to be you one day. I
can't even stand it.
You could be.
Yeah. And Yeah. I mean, it really is like I think for girls who really love sports, it is one of those things where you just go, there's a real, like there's and a place for it. And it can create a great balance on a coaching staff,
Yes.
a necessary one.
Perfect timing. I was just in the middle of reminiscing about the first time I tried Liquid Death. I remember thinking to myself, that's an aggressive name. I cracked that can though, and let me tell you, oh my gosh, I swear it tastes colder in a can. It is the craziest phenomenon, and it was cold, crisp, and refreshing. It was exactly what I needed, and most importantly, it was hydrating because it's water. I buy Liquid Death Mountain water for our house on the regular. I personally enjoy the fact that not only does it taste colder in the can, but then you're pot committed when you open it. So I have to finish the can. It's kind of like a little race to see if I can finish it before one of my children tries to steal a sip. Everybody's seen the backwash on children. I'm not sharing drinks with them. Liquid Death also has soda-flavored sparkling water and low-calorie iced tea. Liquid Death is available nationwide, literally anywhere you shop for water or iced tea. And for all Not Gonna Lie listeners, we got you a deal. They're going to give you $2 off any 2 6-packs. Just go to liquiddeath.com/Kylie for details. Now, Running Point is on Netflix.
Yes.
For the fans who haven't seen it yet, it is hilarious. You play the president of an LA basketball team, loosely based on the life of the Lakers president, Jeannie Buss. And you've said you're a sports fan yourself. Who are your teams that you've rooted for
In life?
Yes.
I grew up in like Elway, Colorado. So when we moved to Colorado, we didn't have an LA football team. The Raiders had already like moved to Oakland when I was little. So we were big Broncos fans. So through and through Bronco, all of us. And then LA was always the Lakers. So we were always big Laker fans and Dodger fans, big Dodger fans, our whole family, huge Dodger fans. Although my dad and I are more Yankee fans, but that's sort of through his godfather was Lefty Gomez, who was a Yankee. And I ended up dating a Yankee and then did a whole World Series run. So I got really tight with the Yankees. Everybody, like from, the owners to the team, staff, all the staff and everybody at Yankee Stadium. And so I just have like such a love for the Yankees organization.
I did see that you got to bring your daughter to set.
I did. Yeah. No, I try to bring my kid, my boys just get bored.
Sure.
Ronnie really loves it. She loves watching it. She loves sitting in front. She has a lot of notes. Like she has a lot to say about the things that I'm doing. She'll ask a lot of questions like, well, why did you do that? Like, why did you go to the desk? Well, why did you pick that up? Well, because I have to pick up my things. She's like, well, yeah, but that doesn't make sense because if you're going to go out of the room, why wouldn't you just leave that in the room? And I'm like, right, okay, this is getting a little intense.
She's like, here are my notes.
She's like watching everything. There was one joke she didn't think was funny. I was like, did you think that was funny? She was like, no. I was like, oh, okay. It's very, very honest.
I think it is such a cool opportunity, not only for you to bring her to set, but for you to be in a role like this, showing a powerful woman in sports, and that she gets to be like, yeah, that's my mom.
I know.
That's so badass. We've obviously talked about motherhood a lot today.
Yeah.
And I ask most of my guests, what is the best piece of motherhood advice that you've ever gotten?
I interviewed this Dr. Shafali. She wrote a book. It's called The Conscious Parent. And Dr. Shafali is a brilliant a therapist, but actually Oprah was the person who said, you have to read this book. I did this thing with Oprah right before COVID. And she was like, have you ever read this book? No. She's like, you have to read it. And I read it, of course, because Oprah, I read it immediately. And it was a game changer. And then I called her to come on our podcast. And the thing that really stood out to me is that we really do, our traumas or our childhood, our own traumas come out while raising our kids. Our kids are actually our great healers and our great teachers. And if we allow, it doesn't mean that you don't have boundaries. It doesn't mean that you don't have, certain rules. It doesn't mean that you don't, have a good authority and structure for your kids so that it creates a safe environment for them. But what it does mean is that you're aware that the things that come up for you are things that you need to be as conscious of as how you're raising your kids, right? So like a good example would be the other day, Bing and I, he's in that teenage phase. We had that headbutt moment of, I want him to do something. He refuses to do it. And in that moment, I got triggered. It wasn't about him. It was about my own inability to resolve or walk away from the moment that was happening. And instead, I became combative with my 13-year-old, which is like, that doesn't go.
Where's that going to get us?
Going to go, right? But
Right.
It happens all the time as a parent, with so many parents. But
I do it sometimes with my 5-year-old.
Right. Yeah. And when you walk away, from it, you can recognize where you sort of might have created more of a problem than you did a lesson.
Oh, yeah.
And the importance of being able to tell your kids that you could do better. I could have handled that situation better. Actually models much more for them than being stubborn and saying, no, I can't admit that I was wrong. And I think that's the biggest lesson for me. And now that I feel like a veteran mother, I've been like doing it for 21 years. It's like to admit you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna be wrong. And to share your imperfections with your kids in moments to be able to say to your kids, I could have handled that better and I'm sorry. Because you don't deserve me to get that angry at you right now.
I have found that like an apology of like, you know what, mom's really sorry. I should not have raised my voice. There was no reason to raise my voice. I think that we can open up our listening ears and mom can not use her serious voice.
Yeah.
Like, it's like that, like you don't always have to be the one that's like, just because you're an adult and they're a kid.
Yeah,
we all have faults.
And you're teaching your kids conflict resolution.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes in conflict, you go too far and you need to say you're sorry.
Yep.
Instead of teaching them that you double down.
Right.
And what you find in going to your kids and saying, I could have handled this better, or I made a mistake, or I'm sorry, I didn't trust you, whatever the scenario is, that connection becomes stronger. And I think that's sort of has been the biggest lesson for me, is knowing when to do that. Parenting is hard.
It's a crapshoot is what it
is. And it's hard. And like, you are going to mess your kids up. Like, I feel like no matter what you do and how you try to do it, it's like, you're going to do it wrong. You're going to make mistakes. Like, you're going to fuck your kids up in some way at some point. You're going to do something that's going to feel traumatizing to them that you didn't realize felt traumatizing to them.
Yes.
And this is coming from like the most loving parents, right? Like, even in the most loving, like connective, healthy, attached parental situation, you're still going to mess up.
One more question, because it's another question that I absolutely love asking moms on the podcast. I've shared a number of humbling things my daughters have told me over the years. And being 21 years into parenthood, I feel like there must be at least one thing that stands out that your child has said to you where you've been like, well, there it is. Is there anything that comes to mind when you think about a humbling child moment?
It's like all the time. I mean, I'm like trying to think of ones that are actually like funny that like we don't hear all the time, like that moms hear, it's more with singing, but I mean, I get like all of it. I've gotten like, that's so cringe. Like, mom, when you do like, you know,
Cringe.
yeah, like don't wear that, you know, whatever it is, like something I'm wearing. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like something I'm wearing or something certain posts that I
your caption is so cringe.
Yeah. Or even like just like the fact that Instagram is something that I do. It's like Gen Z, for some reason, they're like, oh, like there's a picture of like the floor with like a plant, like, right. And they post it and like a foot.
Yes.
And you're like, I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know what and like like I call them like the fuzzies and like all the fuzzy pictures of like kids like on a thing, but like you can't see anybody's face.
Yes.
And I'm like, I get it.
It's very cool
like,
to post that apparently.
I get that like it doesn't matter what it is. It just doesn't matter. It's nothing.
It is funny to hear the degree of teenage and like older humbling experiences because we're very much in the phase of like, I'll put my hair in a bun and my oldest will be like, I don't like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It looks bad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think there's a nicer way to say, Mom, can you wear a ponytail?
Yeah. I mean, I have all like, it's always, I think also as a mom, they're just very much clued into the things that you're doing. Like, you know, is that what you're wearing? So like if it's a little see-through or very see-through with me, like it could be very see-through and they're like, no, Mom, that's gross. Like, what are you doing? You know, or it could be like I'm wearing a dark lip and whatever. It's just like there's a lot of focus.
Sure. Because you know that at that age, we are actually, as mothers, we were put on this earth to embarrass them.
Basically.
They believe that
so
truly deeply in their hearts.
So it has turned out to be. Ronnie is different. Ronnie and I are like Velcro. It's just totally different.
I think it's such a nice dynamic that you got a girl on your third and that there's that age gap. Like it just feels like you got like almost like a little built-in best friend.
Oh, it's just crazy. Like,
but I'm biased because I don't know what boys are.
Boys are so fun. Boys are so fun, but we weren't
meant to have.
Well, you might not be done yet. You know, I don't know. It looks
Who knows,
honestly. Sounds to me like you guys are going to keep having babies.
You never, there might be a pleasant surprise in there. Oh
You're
God,
gonna
don't
end up
say
with
that.
Like twin boys.
That would be horrific.
Or
because
awesome.
I'm already transitioning to a minivan. I would have to have like a full freaking 12 passenger.
You're going to have a Sprinter van.
It's so bad.
I love it though. I could have so many kids, you know. I mean, I even think about it right now. I'm like, am I totally done? But because I just can't imagine being done. And then, yeah, it's a weird thing to think like, oh no, I'm done having kids when you love having kids.
I don't love being pregnant, but I always call it like a means to an end. And I so enjoy like that squishy kid phase. I love learning them and like getting to know them as they're growing up and getting to see our 5-year-old from our 2-year-old right now is like, oh, I miss when you were like this age, but I'm having so much fun learning you at this age.
I know. And it just gets better. If you're like if you love it, like it really does get better. It gets a little scarier, you know, when you start to watch them, when you start to have to let them go.
Like be their own.
Yeah, because you want them to love themselves and then you want them to make good decisions out in the world, you know? So you get a little bit of that, oh man, I just hope they are good, you know?
I cannot thank you enough for
this is so
chatting
fun.
today.
It was so nice to meet you.
It was so nice to meet you too. I hope that everyone flocks to Netflix and checks out Running Point.
Yes.
It is so funny and so excited for you and the series. And thank you again for joining me today. And
I'm sure I'll see you down the road.
Oh, I can't wait. Thank you so much again to Kate Hudson for joining me today. Make sure you watch her in Running Point on Netflix, streaming now. You can find even more clips from our conversation on my YouTube channel on More Shit Monday. And that's a wrap on another episode of Not Gonna Lie. I'll be back next Thursday with a brand new episode. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow the show on all social media at NGL with Kylie. Not Gonna Lie is a Wave original brought to you by Liquid Death. Thanks again for tuning in.